Let's have a look at the latest Ion interview about the future of World of Warcraft. I'm like really curious on which direction World of Warcraft will go. Like patch 9.2 is looking really good. It's finally a really great patch. So yeah, let's see what Ion has to say. World of Warcraft is in the middle of extraordinary times. The MMO will be turning 17 years old this month. Wow. Like, can you believe that it has been around for 17 years? That's crazy, right? And while Blizzard prepares for the launch of a new patch, it is also looking within to fix its own culture under the backdrop of state investigation into, the harassment issues. Oh yeah, like, you know what's like really bad for a company when it comes to issues like that? They're gonna stay around for several years. Like, it will take a long time for people, maybe they will never ever forget this even, so it's definitely a bad image that will remain. So it's very unfortunate for the people working there, because I feel like the most sorry for the people working there, because the lead, they messed up, and now like the regular employees, they are suffering under that. Last week I had the chance to talk with WoW director Ion. I asked him about what's happening inside Blizzard and the World of Warcraft team since the investigation became public. We also talked about the changes that World of Warcraft is seeing in the upcoming 9.1.5 patch and beyond. Yeah, that's like a few weeks old, this article, but it's still relevant because we already have 9.1.5 changing the game. The World of Warcraft team has been changing or removing some of the game emotes and art. What's the thought process behind those changes? Ion. As we said in, I think, a brief blog or forum post, this has been a process that has been ongoing as a result of an internal period of self-reflection over the last few months. These are changes that are coming from the team as a whole. In the discussion we began internally in the aftermath of the lawsuit and everything surrounding that. You know what? I actually think those changes are not going to change anything. Like, just by changing a few paintings and censoring them, like, it's not gonna do anything. Like, what's important is the climate at the office, like where they are working. They need to fix the climate, not the game. Like, the game is not the issue when it comes to censorship or harassment. Because what happens in the game is between players, right? So they should do something internally and not in the game. Like, they should make sure that nobody gets harassed there, because changing paintings will not change anything within the team. It's just we players get less options of stuff, right? Like, who wants to see freaking censored paintings? Like, I think everything is fine. And I also don't think Sylvanas needs to change her outfit. Like, who cares? Like, what they need to do is they need to stop harassing people there. That's what's up. So yeah, trying to understand how we as the current leadership of the team could do better. Better for our team, better for our community. One thing that came up is that there are pieces of our game that over the course of 17 plus years now that were unnecessarily the products of a diverse, inclusive range of voices that did not necessarily reflect the perspective of the current team and many of our players. There are things that people in our team were not proud to have in our game. These are many things that people over the years have pointed out in the community, but we... Oh, thank you. Finally, he realizes that. But we didn't necessarily listen in the way we should have at the time. Finally some insight here, some understanding from what's happening with the community. There are things we didn't want that were added, and you guys didn't listen. Will you listen now? If so, that is a very nice change. What we did was we just set up a process internally for folks across the team, as well as sourcing some feedback from the community as a whole to flag pieces of the game for review. Whether it's old quests or specific lines. As a random example, there were a number of jokes and references made a dozen years ago about how feminine male blood elves were. Mistaken many male blood elves for women, just poking fun at that not necessarily good-spirited way. That doesn't sit right in 2021. Like, seriously, who cares if they look feminine? Like, it's actually good for the... Like, if you have some characters that look like more male, some look more feminine, isn't that like good for the player actually? Because you have all sorts of players. There are some people that prefer a more feminine look on like a male character, and someone to look like maybe very bulky and like have tons of hair on the chest or something. Like, just an example, right? So I don't think that's necessarily bad. That's the sort of thing that was reviewed by a broad group that reflects the diversity of our team today. We made decisions on whether to leave something standing because they're borderline, but we're not looking to reinvent everything. Wait, are you going to offer a more masculine version of the Blood Elf now? Wait, what? Turn over every single stone and rewrite 17 years of WoW. Please don't do that. Just rewrite the last 2 years if possible. It might be a little bit juvenile, it might be off color, but this isn't something that is really making our game feel less welcoming for people. Which is what we are aiming to change. Those things we left, others were removed, others were rewritten or changed accordingly. Because of the nature of the feedback loop in the community and the way we publish new builds during the public test realm cycle and fan sites data mining them, every one of these changes ends up getting a huge spotlight shown on it alongside class balance changes or new systems we are adding. This is a massive patch, but this is not something that took the entire team offline. You know what change I would like to see? Fix a bit unholy decay for M+, because there isn't, like, it's almost impossible to find a single unholy decay in M+ 27, 28. Maybe there needs to be a tiny buff, maybe something about AoE and cooldowns. In the grand scheme of things, these are all small changes. Many of them would probably go unnoticed if not for that spotlight being shown on them. But they are things that were important to the team, and we've heard from many in our community that they're important to them. This isn't necessarily something that we expect to do in every patch going forward, to have a bunch of changes along these lines in it. But we want to be more sensitive on how the content we make is received by our team and by the global player base that calls Azeroth World of Warcraft home. Okay, from what I'm reading here so far, they are definitely going into a better direction, but those are words just yet, right? Like, actions speak louder than words, so we have to look at their actions, what they're actually going to add or change. Okay, Ion, mixed, right? Some of its confusion. Changes started to be seen before we explained why we were doing what we were doing. There's a range of folks. You have folks who see this as political or unwelcome. Just focus on making a fun game. I don't care about this stuff. You know what? That's like the majority of all players. Like, most players just want to have a fun game. They don't care too much about like other stuff, right? And there are those that do also care about like other stuff. But I feel like for the most part, like, people, if they play a game, they're not gonna research like countless hours of what's happening behind the scenes. Like, who that sees a game in the stores looks first at the company, then the game. Like, everyone looks at a game, at a product. Like, how is this game? Is it fun? Like, what's the game rating? They're gonna look at this first and then the rest, right? So for the majority of players, yeah, they just care about this. On the other end, there are those who have expressed concern that we are almost doing this as a smokescreen rather than actually tackling the hard issues. We are just changing some words in a game. This isn't an or, it's an and we understand that we are not fixing systematic justice by changing an emote in World of Warcraft. Exactly, so why are you changing it? Pointless. But why not, like, one thing actually pisses me a bit off about those changes. Like, in Final Fantasy XIV, they're like characters running around with almost like just underwear on and stuff, and they're like some quests that sound like freaking flirts and stuff. So why does there need to be a censorship in World of Warcraft when other MMOs like Final Fantasy XIV and they're like, even like Elder Scrolls Online, there are some quests or like some scenes you can freaking witness while you are questing that are not censored. So why does World of Warcraft need to be censored when like the majority of MMO games don't have this kind of censorship? So this is something that I don't get. Like, I don't think there was anything wrong within World of Warcraft, but with the company. The issue is the company, not the game. But why not do that while we're also working on larger cultural unity and diversity and safety issues and more? As we're improving our process for evaluating managers, for sharing feedback with the team, as we're improving our recruiting and hiring to build a more diverse team. That's actually good, because if you bring in new people, you bring in new ideas. Maybe we're gonna have like some cool new expansions. Let's also turn that same eye on our game. That's one thing that may be more visible in the short term, but in the long term we understand that what we are going to be judged for as a team, as a company, and as a game is far beyond that. That work is still underway. Yeah. The situation that Blizzard is in right now, they have a very long way to go. But they can go that way if they decide to. Game speed. You mentioned how some people say, why do this instead of that? One thing they mention is tackling in-game toxicity. Can you talk about what Blizzard is doing to combat that inside the game? Ion. For many people, their unpleasant, their painful WoW experiences aren't the result of a line of what an NPC said, but something that was said to them in party checks or jokes that they saw in general chat or otherwise. You know what? There are like barely any GMs. Like if something happens in WoW, and even like someone gets reported, or like bots for example, it takes eternity for action to be taken. Like I feel like in Final Fantasy 40 for example, if you report someone or something happens, it's way quicker. Like there's a fast process here, but this one is way too slow in my opinion. We've been working to improve our handling of this on all fronts. We've been consulting with the Overwatch team and our broader shared tech group to use machine learning, but this can have bugs, to better catch a lot of those things in real time as opposed to relying on a very manual reporting. Okay, so they want to use like freaking systems that like filters like curse words or insults or something or what. But yeah, this can have bugs sometimes, right? That's what WoW was built around 17 years ago, and sort of process maybe works well with someone who's spamming sales or whatever in Orgrimmar, but it doesn't work so well when it's a one-off hateful comment that's just written to someone or something said in a party chat in a dungeon. We have a lot to do here, but it's a #1 focus for our customer support, our tech group. Okay, let's see how they're going about that. You mentioned making the team more diverse. Can you talk more about that effort? Ion. This is something that has been a goal of ours for years. We have a number of women leaders, people of color across the team. These are areas where we continue to look for a team that represents that players we want to play our game. Part of why diversity is so important is that I and we as a team firmly believe that it makes a better game, makes a better product. How about starting to pay women and men equally and not make there a distinction, right, when it comes to like salary? We are trying to make a game that's not for a niche audience. We're making a game that's played by millions of people around the world. And Blizzard, please do something to attract more new players. We have so many old school players and it's really great, but can we also get some like 18, 19-year-olds or those that just recently maybe took on a job that they can finally pay a subscription, like younger folks to get into WoW? Like how about we add a short version of like a time walking for new players that goes through each expansion with the main quest, where like new characters are being introduced or what's happening. I think we need a short version of all the main stories of each expansion summarized in one special time walking for new players. I hope they're gonna add a special time walking in the future for new players. Recognizing that the game industry has had certain skews, male-dominated is one obvious one, especially in design. We need to work harder to build and find qualified candidates who are out there. We can't just open up a position, take the first couple dozen resumes, look through them and pick someone out of that pile. I mean, sure, if you pick like unexperienced people, maybe they're gonna make not so good work, right? Because we may just get a couple of dozens white male resumes, and it's not that we wouldn't hire someone who's qualified for the job. Okay, then again, like I give you guys an example. There's like one person that's, let's say, of color or something, and this person has no experience and is like very, very fresh to the industry. And there's someone that's like, let's say, white male and has like 10 years of experience in a company. Or it could be vice versa. There's someone of color, 10 years working experience, has like already programmed games and stuff. Then you want to get the one that has more qualification and you don't look on color. But from what I've heard and what like rumors were, that they actually look at color and stuff. I don't know if it's true. Those are just rumors, so I can't really say it's true. But if it is, this really sucks. Like there needs to be there should be no distinction between who is applying, but what is their background. That's what matters. If they already have like works, like maybe they can put something nice in the resume, like some, I don't know, like what they have drawn, like certain maybe characters they draw, and if they have like some experience with art or they programmed before. I think that's what's important, right? Okay, that's just about hiring. What is here about inside the game? I want to know more about what's actually happening with the game. But what is this? What kind of changes have you noticed inside of Blizzard? There are few conversations happening at all levels. I can speak to what we are doing on the WoW team. There are changes that have to happen at Blizzard level or Activision Blizzard King level, depending on the structures that we are talking about. A lot of what I just talked about is one of the things we can act on most directly in terms of hiring or reviewing all the job descriptions we post. You know what I'm actually super curious about? What kind of new people they will actually hire. If there will be like a lot of people that were already working on other games in the past, for example. Lost in the shadow of specific incidents, okay. What is the moral like for the WoW team right now? Sometimes you guys take a bit of beating anyways, but that's been amplified lately. What is the feeling like inside the studio? Ion. Ups and downs. I think that it's been clearly a tough stretch. A lot of self-reflection, a lot of earnest conversation, disappointment, anger, all of that. And you know what? I'm so feeling the team, because there are like a lot of people that are just they're just innocent bystanders that are like inside the team, and they now get like the issues and stuff, and they get all the drama, and they were not even involved. Like, maybe they're like people that always bring like coffees for like the higher ups and stuff, and they were like innocent bystanders, and now they have to like freaking bring the coffee to a freaking upset leader. Like imagine that, like let's say there's an employee that goes by the name Tom, and yeah, he always goes to his CEO, brings the coffee, and now the CEO is like always angry and pissed, and now he has to bring the coffee to him. He's like angry. Okay, yeah, I can see that. Wait, there's something about time walking. Let's read that. While we work to improve and a lot of these conversations happen, we also know that we have millions of players who are waiting for the next update to WoW, who want to hear about what's coming next. A lot of efforts that led us to what went into 9.1.5 were actually really exciting, invigorating moments for the team. On top of our standard planned set of features for 9.1.5, like, oh yeah, that is nice, that's new, like Legion, time walking, or other updates. Let's take some time and just almost have a little hackathon. Do whatever you want to do that you will think make the game more fun. Pitch your ideas. Let's go in and find areas that have been long time pain points for the community. Whether it's alt raids being frustrating to farm solo or whatever else, and let's solve them. The team as a whole just fanned out, came back with ideas and pitches. That's what a lot of 9.1.5 was born out of. That creative energy, that expression. We're here to make a game for our community that's going to bring joy, bring happiness to the people around the world. Those are nice goals, but yeah, you need to find methods to work towards that goal, right? And yeah, when it comes to like time walking, one thing that I don't get with World of Warcraft, and that's probably because why they're doing it, because they want the latest expansion to be like the focus of everything. Why don't they add like a total scaling for freaking dungeons and raids? So let's say you queue for a dungeon in like, let's say Dungeon Finder, you want to go in with a group. You have the selection. Like you can still keep the old stuff, but give the option to let everything or yourself scale with it by choice. Like, you know how you can set like your group to like heroic or mythic and stuff, like difficulty, you can do this in a party. How about giving an option to add like, let's say heroic or mythic scaling? So we have like 2 more options or something, or even normal scaling, there's like 3 options. Like let's give us a way to scale with all content. And then give the drops at least like item level 210 or 220 or something. Like it doesn't need to be like the top gear you can get from all raids, but at least something that you can use as like starting gear or so for the latest expansion, right? Like that would be a nice move. Now, if I ever get selected into the 100, I will make a post about this unlimited time walking and scaling, because I think that would make old content more viable and would make retail a bit like classic, right? Because now you have like more challenge and stuff and more to pick. Future of World of Warcraft. There are a lot of quality of life improvements coming to 9.1.5, and a lot of people are excited about those things. But a lot of people have expressed some frustration that didn't happen sooner. Do you think that's something in the feedback loop that Blizzard can improve? Absolutely. We can always do better at listening to feedback. We can also do better at communicating that we've heard feedback, but aren't necessarily acting on it for whatever reason, or taking it under advisement and keeping an eye on it. This is feedback that, as the community point out, we've already hurt on many fronts going back to beta. In some areas we were wrong. The community said, hey, we think that conduit energy is going to be a frustrating system. It's not going to have the effects that you hope it has. Our intent was similar. What happened here? Our intent was similar with WoW Classic. Yeah, but that is actually true. Like, why did they even bring this back? Like, why did they do this? Like, I don't get it. In other areas, it's about watching the mainstream of the WoW player base, the broad range of the player base evolve, watching how they're playing the game, what we hear from more than just folks who are content creators or high-end raiders or PvPers. Okay, so they want to be more casual player friendly, alright. But one of the challenges in designing WoW is that there's a dozen of different playstyles. I totally agree. PvP also needs some attention, because there's like a big group for PvP too. It's not as big as like the PvE community, but there is a PvP community. Let's also rework that a bit. Many of them are not as vocally or prominently represented. So what we hear from people who are trying to do high-end ratings and also push with keystones, having to choose one covenant, not being able to use the too freely for this system was frustrating. And I'm actually glad that they changed it. They did some really nice changes. I'm actually like happy with what they did now. And now it's like way easier to switch. Okay, so but a lot of what goes into 9.1.5 isn't a one-off. It's a reflection of us changing a lot of the underlying philosophies that have motivated our approach to designing WoW. A lot of these things, like I mentioned regarding conduit energy, are outgrowths of lessons that were taught to us by our preceders, by the founders and the leaders of the team, about the importance of meaningful choice, the importance of preserving character investment. Finally, you realize that. That may have led to us not being friendly to alt gameplay. You know what? We needed all gameplay. And you know why? Because we get more and more allied races. And if you make like a allied race character, because that's like your freaking favorite race that you always wanted to play. Yo, I think Dark Iron Dwarfs are so nice. Like, I love Dark Iron Dwarfs. I just made a Dark Iron Dwarf Shaman. And people's ability to get caught up on their alts. Like, that way you can make alts mains, right? Like, let's say you really fancy a certain new race that you unlock. Yeah, you can make it a main now. Now people can main Void Elves and stuff. The reality is, the way people play the game has evolved. What was the right answer for the WoW player space and for the game 15 years ago may not be today. True. You also have like younger players, like there are some new players coming to WoW. It's not like a huge amount of new players, but there are a few. So they have like a different thinking as people did like 15 years ago. Okay, 9.1.5 reflects a shift toward more alt accessibility, more catch-up, more sensitivity, and respect for players' time. More catch-up is important for... more catch-up. I don't mean catch-up for like French fries. No, I mean like freaking catch-up. Yeah, it's important because there are people that were on a long break and new players. You need to have some way to catch up. I think it's good what they are doing. Talking about community requests and maybe stubbornness, is something like cross-faction raiding a bit more on the radar as a possibility these days? I'd say that is a bit more on the radar, yes. That's one of the areas where a lot of things to solve, a lot of things to figure out to make it happen. But at the end of the day, if Jaina and Thrall are working alongside each other in the raid, why can't Alliance and Horde players also work alongside each other in that raid? Yo, I actually would love that, because lore-wise, there's already some peace going on between the Horde and the Alliance. So I think PvE can be done by both factions. Like in PvP would be cool if it stays like that, right? So like Horde versus Alliance. But how about like in PvE, there's actually a merge possible? Yeah, that would be nice. You talked about 9.2 a bit, but beyond that, should we expect 2.5 or 0.3 for the expansion cycle? Or will it be 9.2 and then looking toward the next things? We're talking a bit more about the conclusion to Shadowlands in more detail in the future. Yes, 9.2 is coming. And yeah, by the way, guys, I reviewed 9.2. So what we are about to read here, like for the most part, is already covered in the video we did. So if you're curious, like feel free to check it out. It's also on the channel. And here, we've seen the story and setting for Warcraft get bigger and more cosmic. Some people like that and some people don't. But I wonder, is it possible to go back? Or is the genie out of the bottle as far as the size and scope of what we are fighting? I don't think it is, no. That's definitely feedback we hear as well. There are some who like that escalation, we face the Titan, that what comes next. Let's go through the whole cosmology. Wait, are they hinting for like a new expansion? There are others who miss just being in an inn in Elwyn Forest, being an adventurer on a more humble scale. At this point, the WoW protagonists are heroes. You've done a lot of stuff. You'll probably never go back to being an anonymous adventurer in the forest. But Azure is the heart of the WoW franchise, and it started with orcs and humans and dwarves and night elves and the rest. We want to get back to that too. There's a room to tell a big cosmic scale story, and there's also room for more traditional core fantasy. Yo, that's nice. I hope we go back to Azeroth for an expansion. Or maybe do like a time traveling to the past with the character of all the events before even Arthas became Lich King, like an old school WoW or something. Like that would be also nice. Like expansion that is like just a travel to like the long past. Yeah, let's see what will happen. This patch is adding Legion time walking. We're getting Mage Towers back. Is the team thinking more about ways to bring back old content? Yo, that is really a nice area, because that's something that I want, because I haven't played WoW for so long. Like I used to play it with a friend together when I was like very young. This is like 2004, 2005. So all those expansions I didn't play, because I had strict parents. I wouldn't get a freaking subscription, so I had to freaking play on the same computer as my neighbor. Like we just played his character together. So yeah, it's something that we're always slowly working our way toward. There's a tremendous amount of content that needs to be in many cases manually retouched and updated to work in this way. Things that we've done over the years, like adding scaling to old content. Please do that, so that even now you can level from 10 to 50 in any of the expansions. Can we make it from 10 to 60, please? Instead of having a fixed linear path where you have to level all of them piecemeal. Things like time walking. These are vehicles to step that move us closer to a world we can make better use of all what we've built as it suits our story. We're not quite there yet, but we want to keep expanding those efforts, pulling more raids into our time walking system. Please do that. A lot of discussions about what outdoor world time walking might look like, and whether there are periods where there will be exciting stuff that will make you want to return to Pandaria or Draenor, please. As we've seen, when a specific storyline does tie into an old area, we will send you back to High Mountain or Valshara in Legion to play through a modern questline set in the old area. You mentioned earlier that the game's almost 17 years old now. Is there a point where it's just too old with too many story threads, too many systems, and Reboot becomes too enticing to ignore? Yo, are we getting a WoW 2? Let's see. Ion, I don't think so. We're always thinking that about what is the future of WoW, not just in a year or two from now on, but 5 or 10 years. Are you kidding me? There's no WoW 2 coming in the next 5 or 10 years. Like, I understand if you look at the next 2-3 years, but we're talking about like 5-10 years here. That's a long time. Within this world, there are plenty of stories we still have to tell. Okay, that's good. More content coming, places to visit, and improvements to make. We want to learn lessons and keep building on these foundations in a lot of ways. Having that 17 years of content is a huge strength. It's an uncomparable strength, but we also need to be mindful of managing the overall bloat in our system. That's kind of what some of the efforts we did in Shadowlands, like squishing and streamlining leveling so new player coming abroad can play through the modern starting experience. We don't need a modern starting experience, we need to understand the lore. Make a short version of all the main stories. Like, I don't know, maybe like 3-4 quests per expansion with like rough ideas of what happened. Like how the world came to be like that. Play through Battle for Azeroth and jump right into Shadowlands rather than being overwhelmed by 120 levels and a whirlwind tour of 15 years worth of content. Do a summary of this, please. Much of which is old, but even as we curate and maintain what that experience is, we have to wealth to draw upon, and our intent is to keep evolving upon those foundations. We remove some parts that are old and crusty, but we add a lot of exciting new ones. But there are millions of folks who are excited to play WoW, and we'll keep supporting it for as long as that's the case. Wow. Like, they're definitely going into better directions. It sounds really nice what their plans are. Also for the future, we're definitely going to see more expansions after Shadowlands. Hopefully good expansions. I already reviewed 9.2. It's on this channel. You can also check it out if you want. And 9.2 is looking really good. I love this patch. I'm hyped for it. Like, I can't wait till February because it's supposed to be released then. And yeah, what are your thoughts? on this interview with Ion? Do you also feel like there are some changes happening? I mean, we already saw 9.1.5 be better, right, than 9.0. But hey, let's see which direction they will go. Will we ever get a WoW 2 with like new engine and even higher graphics? Let's see. But yeah, if you guys are new to this channel and you love MMOs, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content. And I also really appreciate if you like this video. This will help out with the YouTube algorithm. And I wish everyone a wonderful day. I will see you guys next time.